we'll start diving into the wonk. This to the two city councilmen who yesterday voted on something pretty big. The so-called affordable housing fee, linkage fee, subsidized housing fee. Those are all the monikers for a cost that developers have to pay when they build commercial office space, restaurants, or hotels. And it's a fee they have to pay that'll go to an affordable housing fund. That fund is used with other monies to build affordable housing units, which are doled out as a sort of lottery. Oh, sorry. I want to try to lay the groundwork. So you chose not to vote for it, and you chose to vote for it. But you know what? I want to ask you, a lot of the opponents, Mr. Faulkner, of this still say that this fund should get funded. It's just not through this way. It should be, like Jerry Sanders said, redevelopment, or others say, some kind of bond. Do you think that that's a good way to invest public money?
I think a lot of the speakers came down and did talk about exactly what you said, Scott, which is a broad-based funding mechanism for affordable housing. And as somebody who's been a strong supporter of affordable housing, particularly in the district that I used to represent, where we built so many units, and looking at some of the things that took away our resources, right? So at the end of redevelopment, the tax increment fee helped dramatically with affordable housing units. But I was opposed to the fee yesterday, and I said so strongly. Wasn't it just an increase of 100%, 200%? It was 500%. I think that's the wrong thing for San Diego, particularly when we are coming out of a recession. And we should be doing everything we can as a city that says, we want you to grow jobs. We want you to bring your businesses here. We want existing businesses to expand. And to say we're going to put a jobs tax, and that's what I call it, and that's what I'll call it again tonight, a jobs tax on our companies that want to expand by 500%. It's wrong for our economy, and it's wrong for CERN.
That dog bites
Mr.
back,
Fletcher
man.
can support it, and I look forward to seeing how many jobs he wants to give away tonight.
Well,
I don't want to give away a job. I want to get a job.
So that fund, though, is something you want to fund. How would you fund it if not through a fee like this? You're just saying a smaller increase?
No, Scott, the best thing that we can provide people with affordable housing is to get them a good paying job.
But that
fund.
But that fund, do you want that fund to be funded at a higher level?
I do not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay. You, sir?
Yeah, well, we just resolved Kevin's problem because if you give him a good paying job, you don't pay the fee. That's what the ordinance says.
But that's not true. That you have to apply for an exemption.
That's right. You apply for the exemption.
But how long does that take?
Well, you have to go through a housing commission process, but their exemption has been given in the past. So it's not like it's never been done before.
I think, I've heard other business leaders in town saying, as long as if they were to get that somehow implemented, that it was guaranteed that the good jobs wouldn't have to pay for this. But that's not guaranteed.
Well, and the part of the action we took yesterday was also to send this back to the Rules and Economic Development Committee to see if we can create a way and look at a way that if the right jobs are the ones that are coming in, we can exempt that fee. So we're going to have that discussion going forward. But to do nothing like this council or the previous council and mayors have done for the last 17 years, it was not an option for us. We had to do something. And we've underfunded pensions, we've underfunded affordable housing, we've underfunded a whole bunch of things in the city, and it was time to stop and correct action.
But there's tens of thousands of people waiting for these homes, a gigantic list. The increase will really only build, as they said, 100 units per year.
Yeah, it was not the answer to the affordable housing crisis in our city, just like it also isn't true that it's going to not allow for growth in economic development and job creation. Both, it was untrue. Both of those statements were untrue.
So why not hand them vouchers or something? Why build them, the apartments?
Well, it could also be for rehab. It's not just for building. You could rehab old units. There's a lot of substandard housing in the city, and so you could use the money for that. The Housing Commission has that authority.
Okay. Mike, do you want to add something?
Well, I do. I think, first of all, we have 10,000 homeless people in San Diego, the third worst homeless problem in the United States. And if I'm mayor, I'm going to urge the council to accept the moral responsibility of providing shelter for the homeless in San Diego. The problem I have with linkage fees and things like that is it's a way to create the impression that people are doing something about the problem, but they're not. I think it's immoral for us to be paying people $300,000 pensions while we can't even afford to provide even people with basic housing. And my policies will be somewhat controversial, but I do think we have a moral obligation to the 10,000 homeless.
Kevin, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you, this is along the same lines, there's all these assumptions that drive San Diego policymaking. I'm sorry, did you want to answer the affordable housing linkage fee thing?
No.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough one.
No, I think the, I thought the IBA was on the right track. Look, this is 16 years. It was temporarily cut in half 16 years ago. And folks haven't engaged in a conversation about how to adjust it back. But I also think that the broader point is we haven't engaged in a conversation about how you tackle it, because even the increase that was proposed still, as you mentioned, doesn't get you there. There's got to be a broader conversation. And we continue to debate how to subsidize poverty. And if we just spend a fraction of this time, and I'm sure we will tonight, talking about some of the ideas that actually create jobs where people can afford to buy a house, I think that's a better conversation. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do that in a lot of parts of the conversation. I think this is one piece of it.
So you think it should be adjusted, increased?
I do think it should be increased.
Now, the big
I don't
conspiracy-
support the level of increase.
The big conspiracy theory is
that
that, you work for Qualcomm now. Qualcomm might do an expansion and they might have to pay, and you're going to be conflicted about that.
they can probably afford it.
They can probably afford it. Pretty big company.
Pretty big company.
Okay.
I mean, if they can afford to pay me as much as they pay me, I'm sure they can do it, right?
Yeah, you want to go there now?